Welcome to the third and final part of my Gibson binding repair series. After removing the totally wrecked and cracked old binding and installing the new one, in this episode you can watch me finishing up the repair. I will put on the new pickguard. There's a lot of handwork going on in this episode, so the only thing you have to do now is relax, lean back and enjoy the video. So as I mentioned before, binding repairs are very time consuming, and it's always a kind of a black box. You can see the result at the point when you cut down the binding, and if there are any gaps, you have to repeat and do all the work again. For cutting down the overhang of the binding, I prefer using my cutter knife or my old chisel. And this is going to be a very time-consuming one. This will take hours. You have to be very focused not to damage the top of the instrument or the back of the instrument. And maybe it sounds weird, but doing stuff like that goes for hours and is quite repetitive is so satisfying for me. And that's what I love about my luthier craftsmanship. And if you are still watching this video and you enjoy my content, feel free to check out my other videos on my YouTube channel. And if you like to support my craftsmanship, feel free to subscribe to this channel. This will really help me out making these videos. Thanks a lot for your support. So this looks quite nice, and I have to say I'm very happy with the result, so I don't have to remove the binding once again because there is no gap all over the binding, which is great. And now I have to make the surface perfectly flat with the surface of the top. For that I'm going to use a file, and at the end I will use my scraper because with the scraper I have the most control, and it's for me the easiest way to blend in the surface from the binding into the surface of the top. And this is what you're going to see next. Here is one of my self-made tools. I often build tools. This is a very simple one. It's just a piece of an aluminum profile where I can stick on my sandpaper, and I have a very good control of the distance that I'm sanding. After finishing up, I would call it scraper work. I really enjoy working with the scraper, such a simple and effective tool. The next step will be fine sanding the binding. I will go for grit 400. Actually, it's not really necessary doing this, but a very important thing is that you have to keep in mind you have to round up the edge on the binding. Why do you have to do that? Because if you want to apply lacquer on the binding, if you have a sharp edge, you can be sure that after a while the lacquer will crack at the sharp edge. And to avoid this issue, you always have to round up the edges, not just on bindings, on headstocks, on everything that you build. Sometimes it's quite annoying because a sharp edge looks very nice, and if you build it perfectly, it's so satisfying, and you have to round it up. But this is the way to go if you want to be safe. So the next step will be color matching the very whitish looking binding to the style and the color of the existing instrument. You can do this in several ways. The most professional way will be lacquering the binding separately with nitrocellulose lacquer, which is a very time consuming and expensive process. So I told this to my customer, but he asked me for a quite simple solution. So I browse around and I have a phone call with my friend Uwe. He's also a luthier, and he recommended me these pans. I have never used them before, and I have to say they work amazing. Look at the results. So this looks very satisfying, nearly perfect. If you want, you can also apply afterwards a thin coat of nitrocellulose lacquer and it will be amazing. The next step will be gluing on the replacement pickguard, which was quite a hassle to find. The owner organized one because the original one was totally wrecked and cracked. You can see this in the first part of this repair series. So thanks to everyone watching this video till the end, and this was quite a long way to go, but at the end everything turns out nice and I'm totally satisfied with the result. If you have missed the previous parts, feel free to check them out. Feel free to check out my other YouTube videos on this channel or switch over to my Instagram channel, where there's also a lot of stuff going on. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for your support. Enjoy your life, make music, and see you the next time.